This is William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and in this video I'd like to provide students with a walk through Lesson 7 in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy's Elementary Grammar course. In the last lesson, we learned about the parts of speech, and we learned that the parts of speech are classes into which words are grouped according to their meaning and use. In this lesson, Lesson 7, we're going to study the first of the parts of speech, which is the noun. In Lesson 7, we're going to learn the first of the parts of speech, and that's the noun. So let's read through this lesson together and learn about the noun. What are the words boy, girl, city, door, window, book, desk? What are these words? They are names of objects. These words, boy, girl, door, window, book, and desk, are names of objects. They are the names of objects, not the objects themselves. They are the names of objects, not the objects themselves. Because each word is a name, it is called a noun, which means a name. Let's learn the definition of a noun. A noun is a name. A noun is a name. What is a noun? A noun is a name, the name of an object. And we're given 3 examples. Boy is the name of an object. John is a name used to speak of an object. And railroad is another name used to speak about an object. These are names of objects. These are nouns. The word noun simply means a name. Let's continue our study. What are the words house, farm, garden, dog, horse, blacksmith, merchant? What are these words? These words are nouns. Why are they nouns? Because they are names. Why are these words nouns? These words are nouns because they are names. What are the words Mary, John, Washington, Chicago, Ohio, America? What are these words? These words are nouns. Why are they nouns? These words are nouns because they are names. Can the name boy be applied to any boy in a school or in the world? Can the name boy be applied to any boy in the world? Yes, it can. It is a name, then, which is common to all boys. The word boy is a noun because it's a name, and it's a name that is common to all boys. That is, it can be applied to each of the boys. So also the name girl is common to all girls. The name house is common to all houses. The name city is common to all cities. Objects of the same kind form what is called a class. Objects of the same kind form what is called a class. The same name can be applied to each object belonging to the same class. The same name can be applied to each object belonging to the same class. The name boy, girl, house, and city are called common nouns. Common nouns, because they can be applied to any one of a class of objects. These are called common nouns because they can be applied to any one of a class of objects. And now let's learn the definition here of the common noun. We read that a common noun is a name which may be applied to any one of a class of objects. A common noun is a name which may be applied to any one of a class of objects. What is a common noun? A common noun is a name which may be applied to any one of a class of objects. And we see a few examples. Bird. A bird is a name that can be applied to any individual bird. Door is a name which can be applied to any door. And lightning is a name which can be applied to any example of lightning. Let's continue our study. Can the name John be applied to all boys? Can the name John be applied to all boys? No, it cannot. Why? Because boys have different names, such as Charles, Frank, Samuel, Clarence, and so on. Individual boys have different names, so John can't be assigned to any boy. Why are boys called by different names? Why are boys called by different names? Boys are called by different names in order to distinguish one boy from another, or to distinguish a particular boy from the rest of the boys in the school or in the world. Boys are called by different names so that we can distinguish one boy from others. Can the name city be applied to all cities? Yes, it can. Is the name Chicago applied to all cities? No, it is not. Why? Because the name Chicago is the name of a particular city. And the names given to particular objects to distinguish them from the rest of their class are called proper nouns. Names that are given to distinguish one thing from the other objects in its class are called proper nouns. Common nouns can be used to name a class of objects, and a common noun can be applied to any individual in that class. But a proper noun distinguishes one member of a class of things. Let's learn the definition of a proper noun. A proper noun is the name of some particular person, place, people, or thing. A proper noun is the name of some particular person, place, people, or thing. And we're given a few examples. Susan. Susan is the name of a particular girl. Rome. Rome is the name of a particular city. American. American is the name of a person who lives in a particular country. And Mars. Mars is the name of a particular planet. A proper noun is the name of some particular person, place, people, or thing. Let's continue our study. What kind of noun is plow? What kind of noun is plow? It is a common noun. Why is it a common noun? Because it can be applied to all plows. Every individual plow can be named plow. What kind of noun is New York? What kind of noun is New York? New York is a proper noun. New York is a proper noun. Why is New York a proper noun? New York is a proper noun because it is the name of a particular city. New York is a proper noun because it is the name of a particular city. As we continue reading through the lesson, we see a note here that we need to pay attention to. Let's read it together. Proper nouns should commence. The word commence means begin. Proper nouns should commence or begin with a capital letter. Proper nouns should commence with capital letters. A common noun should commence with a small letter, unless it is the first word of a sentence, or unless it is a word of some special importance. The words I and O should always be capital letters. So common nouns are normally not capitalized. They're only capitalized if they're used at the beginning of a sentence, because the beginning of a sentence should always be capitalized, or if they're used to name some special word. And we learned that the words I and O are always capitalized. Proper nouns are also always capitalized. Proper nouns are always capitalized. So one way that we can identify proper nouns when we're reading is that we'll see them capitalized. If we see a word capitalized at the beginning of a sentence, that doesn't mean that it's a proper noun. It may be a common noun. But if we see a word capitalized anywhere else in a sentence, it's probably going to be a proper noun. And you need to make sure that when you're writing, you always capitalize proper nouns. Always capitalize the first word of a sentence, and always capitalize proper nouns. Okay? So, we've read through the content of our lesson, and now we can look at the examples or the exercises that need to be done for you to study and complete the work of this lesson. Let's look at the examples. I'm looking right here on the page. You have a list of names here, and you're told to tell which are common and which are proper nouns in the following list. So you need to look at each word, think about the meaning of that word, and ask yourself, is this a common noun or is this a proper noun? Now notice, every word in the list is capitalized. So you can't use capital letters to decide if a noun is common or proper. They've put every word, they've started every word with a capital letter. So you're really going to have to think about what the meaning of the word is, and if the word can be used to name all of the objects in a class or just one particular object. So that's your first exercise. After the exercise, you see there's another note here. Common nouns, when in a tabulated list of words, as above, may begin with capital letters as if each began a sentence. So when we put words in a list, we may capitalize each word in the list, whether it's common or proper. So that's a helpful note to remember. If you're making a list, you can put every word in the list with a capital letter. And if you see a list with words that begin with a capital letter, it doesn't mean that they are proper nouns. You always need to think about the definition of a common noun and the definition of a proper noun. And when you see a word and ask whether it's common or proper, you need to use the definitions of common nouns and proper nouns to decide whether each noun is common or proper. Let's continue. Down on the next page we read, point out all the nouns in your reading lessons and tell which are common nouns and which are proper nouns. So this is something that you can do at home. If you're reading with your parent or with an older brother or sister, You can read a sentence and then look at each word in the sentence and answer whether the noun is a common noun or a proper noun. First, you'll have to identify which words in the sentence are nouns. That's the first challenge. Determine which words in a sentence are nouns, and then, after you've identified the nouns, tell whether each noun is common or proper. That's a good exercise, and the book here gives you a model to follow to do this. So if we have a sentence like this, Cicero was an orator. An orator is a speaker. Cicero was an orator. Cicero was a Roman man who was a famous speaker, a famous orator. And our sentence reads, Cicero was an orator. And if we want to identify the nouns and whether they're common or proper, we'll follow this model that's shown us under the sentence. We'll say, Cicero is a noun. It is a name. That's the reason why it's a noun. Cicero is a noun. It is a name. Cicero is proper because it is the name of a particular person. Orator is a noun. Why? Because it is a name. Orator is a common noun. Why? Because it may be applied to any one of a class of objects. And so you see here, you're given a model to follow. Anytime that you study a sentence that you're reading and want to identify the nouns and whether the nouns are common or proper, you can simply follow this model. Identify the noun, explain why it's a noun. Then identify whether the noun is common or proper, and then explain why you say it's common or proper. That's how you should identify nouns and tell whether they're common or proper when you're reading. That's all of the content in lesson number 7. And we've been able to go through the lesson. We've been able to learn the definition of a noun. We've also learned the definition of two kinds of nouns, common nouns and proper nouns. And we've learned a method or model for identifying nouns and explaining whether they're common or proper. But remember, the point of this lesson was to study the first part of speech, which back at the top was the noun. Remember, we're studying the parts of speech, and the first part of speech is a noun. In this lesson, we learned a definition of a noun. We learned that a noun is a name. A noun is a name. And then we learned that there are two different kinds of nouns. We learned that there are common nouns, here in point number 2. And down below, we learned that there are proper nouns, in point number 3. That's all the content for this lesson, a very important lesson that you need to study carefully. Now it's time for you to study this lesson for yourself. Study this lesson for mastery. You need to read over the lesson by yourself. You need to memorize the definitions. You need to complete the exercises and complete the assessment for this lesson. Once you've mastered this lesson and completed all of the assessments, we'll be able to move on to the next lesson in elementary grammar. I hope you found this walkthrough to be helpful. God bless your studies.